Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, before I start streaming, Okay, now we are good to... Oh, no, we're not. We are? I'm just gonna sit here until it stabilizes. I have been uploading and downloading a lot today. But we also had that issue where on Tuesday I just didn't have internet, so I'm a little bit wary of everything working. I've been able to just like do normal work over my internet connection, but that doesn't require always like a constantly stable source of like internet. Because it's just uploading and downloading a bunch of stuff, right? If that just drops for like 20 seconds, that doesn't like... Yeah, it seems like it's a little up and down, which is not ideal. This is the first time streaming since the new like router has been installed. The router was absolutely busted, and I'm a little bit wary of how things go. But it seems to have stabilized that. Before I start streaming, I should like... And I don't know if it is because of like Google Drive, because that stuff is paused now. That stuff is not doing anything anymore. And if I look at my like internet usage over the course of like the download that I've been having on all day, well, it has actually like dipped down over the last hour or so. We're just gonna go forward with it and see if it stabilizes, I guess. Look, sometimes I'm like, oh man. A lot of times I'm happy that I live in Europe and not in America. Sometimes like, oh man, the idea of just being able to sue the ever-living hell out of my internet provider for being just the worst would be fantastic. Because that's like, even with all the consumer protections we have here, like that's not going to fly. And for the most part, that's a good thing, because it would be a pretty like petty and frivolous lawsuit, which would take up way too much like of my time and money. Yeah, we're just gonna kind of stick with it, and yeah, man, it's not stable at all. Like it's very, very badly connected. Then again, it's only dropped. Well, it's dropped about like 30% of frames that I've sent out so far, which is not good. Yeah, it does kind of stutter at times. Yeah, sometimes it just drops like altogether, which is like right now. It just drops down to 0 kilobit per second for no good reason. And we're like 5 minutes in, so it's definitely not Google Drive anymore. I can be pretty sure about that. I'm gonna open up Task Manager real quick. I was kind of afraid that this was gonna happen with the whole internet situation. But yeah, so let's see. How much are we sending out? We're sending out about 15 megabit. So we're definitely using more upload than just the stream. What could that be? It's a fantastic question. Right now it's down to about 7 megabit actually, which is roughly the stream bitrate. So that seems like it makes sense. It probably is Windows Update. Windows Update wouldn't require any upload bandwidth, only download. If I'm like downloading an update, or torrent if you use it. I don't have any torrents downloading, and I don't like ever seed anything anyway when I download it for this very reason. But it seems like it has stabilized out a little bit now. I'm just going to keep Task Manager up here as well to see if and when it drops. But for now, it seems to be pretty good. So let's go. That was a rough first 5 minutes. Who knows it doesn't upload? I'm not sure. I mean, why would Windows Update need to upload anything? Like, aside from some questionable things regarding like that one Windows update a while ago that was going to like periodically take screenshots, but even then it wouldn't upload it. It would keep everything locally. So like there's no reason that would require any upload. Okay, so what we're gonna do is hopefully be a stable stream from now on, and we're gonna be starting on the next enemy character. I have generated some reference images, one of which you can see in the thumbnail. And this is pretty... I mean, this is a lot more detailed and a lot more like anime than my version is going to be. My version is going to be like an in-between of these two. This is just a bad generation, to be honest with you. It's mostly going to be these two guys that I'm going to be referencing, and that's going to live on my side monitor while I do all this. So yeah, we don't do anything as far as like the legs go, because I hate making walk cycles, and I will do everything in my power not to make a walk cycle. So first things first is we're going to just throw a bunch of meshes together, and those meshes are going to then like be fused together when we start sculpting and stuff like that. But for now, it's just going to be a very rough block out, and then we'll see where we go from there. So I think we start with a cylinder, and that cylinder is going to be pivoting around here. And I want to try for a change to keep things in kind of a reasonable like dimension size as well, because every single one of these distances is 1 meter. So I want to try to keep things at a reasonable scale, because usually when I model things, they end up being like this large, and they become like 10 meters tall, while they should be like 150 to 180. So I'm going to try to keep that in mind for this one. I mean, I guess what I could do is I could model it bigger and then scale it all down at the end. And that could be relevant for a couple of reasons, because like the near clipping, but near clipping doesn't like really kick in at any relevant distance seemingly. So yeah, let's stick with this. Okay. So if we start with a cylinder for just like the lower body up to the rib cage, and then we just like extrude another one out like this for the upper body. This is the very first very rough block out. I feel the need to make sure that we like point that out properly. Can I just say your pivot point should be... I guess I can't. But I can say the radius should be like 20 centimeters, maybe a little less even. And then the depth should definitely be only by 20. Yeah, so we're just gonna kind of mess about. It's been a while since I've actually used Blender again. I say this every time that I go back to doing something in Blender. That has been a while, because every time that I go back into Blender, it's been a while. So we'll see how horribly wrong this ends up going. But for now, I guess what I can do actually is there's not a very good frontal view, but I can copy this and I can like can I like import an image? I think that's a plugin, right? That's not a... Well, then what we can do is we can... Oh, reference. Oh, I didn't save it anywhere, though. Probably need to... Hold on, we're gonna get there. That's the wrong software. Where's my pure ref? There we go. Let's open up like Paint so I can like just paste this in. Well, we'll get there. I don't know if there's any, just to be safe for like confidentiality reasons. We're doing that. Okay, it just opens up in my most recent project directory. That is fine. And on my second monitor as well. Don't want to be showing like other stuff that I'm working on. Not even for like YouTube, but like just other client work and stuff. Don't need that on stream. So where are we going with this? I guess we go into my GameDev folder for this as like a reference image, right? GameDev, action RPG. I guess it's assets and then concept art, and then we call this like zombie.png, and then we can go over to this one, GameDev. Where's the assets, concepts, arts, zombie.png? There we go. Okay, so now that we have that imported, we can actually do stuff. Can't hear your voice, is kind of low. That is, that's a you issue. My audio levels seem pretty good. I can bump them up a little bit. But if you like actually cannot hear me, that is probably a issue on your end. Like they're a little lower than altogether might be necessary, but it's like minus 12 dB, which is pretty like standard, like between 12 and 6. So let's remove all the rotation from this. Oh, that should be 90. And then this should be up here, and then we can start making this. Hold on, actually. We're in edit mode now. Can I not change this thing into edit mode? Oh, that's kind of fucked. So how big is this thing now? It doesn't say. About 140. So it can be a little bigger probably. If we take this, that's about 2 meters tall. Actually, 140 is probably pretty good now that I think about it. Maybe a tiny bit bigger, but not too much, because we don't have legs, right? So it's only the upper part of the body. So that's probably decently good. Let's put that back here, and then we can this is a fantastic point. Probably want this to be I mean, we don't need to pose him like this, obviously. Just need this for a general guide in terms of like proportion. So yeah, let's let's use it for that. Yeah, and there my internet goes being fucky again. I really hate my internet, man. I really do. It's not a fun time. The issue with this being an AI generated image is that I do not have multiple perspectives. How do I animate a face? It's really hard. Just the same way you animate everything. Faces you can do it purely through bones, which a lot of people do. Another way you can do it is mapping certain blend spaces for like facial expressions to bones, so that you can like sculpt a face into like an angry position, and then tie that to like a bone or like a controller, and that way like blend into that expression, and that way you can say like, oh, be 20% angry and 30% happy, and then it blends it in a way that shows both. That's another way. That's a little bit more limited because you're limited to the blend spaces that you modeled for it. So it's not exactly ideal in that way. So it kind of depends on what you need. For a lot more freedom, you're just gonna have to like rig up the face with a lot of bones. How do I animate those? By giving them bones and animating them. There's not much more that I can tell you there, I'm afraid. So yeah, this is the chest going a little bit more outward, and then I guess like the spine extends like this, right? So this would be, we'll smooth this over at some point. Let's add we can just add a UV sphere. That's fucking huge. The rough size of the head. This is mostly just a size guide at this point for me, to be honest with you. And then we'll put it into place in a moment. I guess what we do is we just, maybe we can sculpt this into place. Maybe that's a little bit easier to do. Just use the grabbing brush. That seems vaguely head-shaped. We'll do the actual sculpting of everything later, of course. It's just a rough block out for now. So yeah, after we do that, we can put you into roughly where you're going to be living. And then I guess what we do is turn off proportional editing first and foremost. Well, maybe actually not turn off proportional editing. Maybe we just take this and we just kind of pull it out like this. I think the issue is that this is not necessarily that it was too big. I think or too small. I think the rest is just already too big. Yeah. Hmm. look, this part of the whole process where we're looking at anatomy is probably the most painful part of the entire thing. So once we have the block out for like the body shape in place, we can start having the actual like fun part of this whole process, which is the characterization and stuff. But for now, this will have to do. Okay, that is a very rough body and head. Congratulations, me. We done did it. To be honest with you, I'm kind of just experimenting with this new way to do a character workflow. I'm not by no means a like art as in the aspect of art, a professional or a like authority in any way. There is this humble bundle at the moment I saw today while looking through the bundles from Flip Normals that has a bunch of stuff on like character designing and character sculpting and stuff, and I think I might want to buy that because I think like seeing how other people do this might be very helpful for me. But right now we're just gonna like go with it. Obviously, because I'm not going to do that live on stream. That would be stupid. Because that's also copyright infringement. And I don't have it yet. But for like the next character that I do, let's see, shoulders are pretty much in line with the neck, right? So they need to be a little bit further back. That might be a nice one to take a look at, like that course, so that I like know, if not what I'm doing, at least what other people do with this kind of stuff. That said, it is not particularly aimed at Blender. It's very ZBrush focused, and I don't mind ZBrush for sculpting. It takes a little bit to get used to, and I don't have enough time and spend enough doing art to really like properly get used to it. I barely do it enough to internalize Blender's like controls and stuff. But for like the more like polymodeling thing, I definitely don't think I want to be using ZBrush too much because it sucks for that, frankly. Let's see, I want to move this along the normals. Right? I think, yeah, this is the normals. ZBrush is expensive. ZBrush also is very expensive. That's the other part of it. So I don't really know if I definitely want to like look into it to ZBrush. I do have it now. But that doesn't mean I necessarily love it. Like for that reason. How do I make the joints not overlap with each other when I make a character? You mean like the elbows and the knees? Mostly just good weight painting. And then we also have this thing where you can map a blend shape to certain like rotational bones if you set up a good control rig, where the same control drives the rotation of the forearm bone, and then also like deforms the inside of the elbow a little bit so that it doesn't clip through itself. Is the thing that you can do. But by and large, I don't think it's like that big a deal if it clips through a little bit, honestly. There's another one of those characters where I'm like, actually, if this thing has slightly longer than natural arms, that's probably fine. Now I need to make the hands. I hate making hands, man. Making hands is the worst. I don't like making hands. But we'll need to, so fucking let's. I'm just gonna do this in object mode first. Like that's the issue. Modeling hands sucks. Animating legs also sucks. So it's either like one of these like limbs is always gonna suck, and I desperately try to avoid both of these things in as many characters as I can. If you look at the characters in my game, you'll see that only like 3 of them so far actually have legs. The rest of them float for very good reason. Because it saves me having to animate a walk cycle, which is great. And a lot of them don't have hands, because hands also suck. That's sad. Having hands really, I find the lack of hands on a lot of my characters also kind of limits the amount of characterization that I can give them in animation. The fact that you can have like the way hands move and the way you move your fingers in a motion really can portray a lot of your like character as well. I find. So they suck to create, but they are a very good tool in the animation department. Also, when you do something like my player character where you just have like the arm and in like, I call them pin arms and pin legs, just like a stump. Initially, it seems like you get a little bit more like room to cheat with the orientation of like the weapon in the quote-unquote hand, the lack of a hand. But it actually turns out that it just doesn't read very well what the orientation of the hand at any given time is, which actually ends up making everything seem less cool instead of giving you a little bit of room to cheat. Don't get me wrong, it gives you that room to cheat. But it also kind of ruins part of your silhouette. On my low pro characters, I started doing mittens. I mean, that's the reason so many Disney characters wear mittens. Or like gloves or whatever. Because animators just do not want to draw the hands. You'll also note in a lot of animated films, whenever you see a character walking, you very rarely see like a wide shot of a character walking, right? In a lot of animated films, whenever you see a character walking, 2D and 3D, mostly in 2D though, like, I don't want to say 90% of the time because that might be a bit much, but especially if there's multiple characters walking as well, it's almost always cut off at like the stomach. So yeah, I'm saying all this to prevent having to start doing the hands, but we can't infinitely do that. So let's add in a cube and get started. Remove the default cube, and now we're back to a non-default cube. How do I make a character stretch without ruining the anatomy? Not exactly sure what you're getting at there. Because if you are stretching out a character, you are definitely not respecting the original anatomy anymore. Like cartoon characters will stretch and squash, but that is still going against their anatomy. With stretching and squashing, the most important part of animation is maintaining a sense of volume. So if you make something like stretch twice as tall, you also need to make the entire thing about twice as thin or half as thick, depending on how you want to look at it. That's the most important part about like stretching things and squashing them, of course. Okay. Now we get to the wacky shit. I never can really find a good way to make hands. What I usually just end up doing is just doing like effectively this. Where I just take this to this, and then why is my navigation so fucked? There we go. I mean, this is vaguely hand-shaped, isn't it? I think it is. So yeah, this is my secret to making hands. Is just stretch out a cube and then stretch it out some more, and then you kind of have a hand. Not like stretch and squash like when you wake up and your muscles are so sore. I don't know. There's nothing like just at that point you just animate the movement of stretching. What do you mean? You don't want free monsters that have no equal mass. I don't know, man. Conserving mass is definitely one of the most important things, though, in animation. Like when you're doing cartoony animation, I should specifically say. But to be honest with you, I'm kind of just winging it at the moment. I guess none of this geometry really matters, so I might as well just do like the subdiv thing, right? And suddenly this looks a lot better already. I tend to make modular pieces that are reused, but I did not make enough character. Yeah, that's probably just straight up a smart thing to do. Playing Resident Evil, that's not at all what I'm talking about. Like transforming from one thing into another. Like the general rule with squashing and stretching for like cartoony animation is that for it to feel good and feel realistic, is that you want to preserve a rough sense of mass. Like a thing turning into an entire different thing is like a whole different subject. That's very different. Ooh, we probably don't want to do that actually. But yeah, making modular pieces is probably what I should be doing. So that I can reuse them at some point. We'll sculpt all this into place at some other point. So yeah, making the thumb is pretty easy. Like if I just go with mittens, like this is not too bad. Like this is pretty workable, right? But then we get to the actual fingers, and that becomes a problem. So how am I gonna do this? Am I gonna just model the fingers in, or am I gonna make separate models for the fingers that I then place on top of here? Because we do straight up like have 4 faces here. So Like, if I were to apply this, I could just individual origins. That's not what I wanted to do. What is the shortcut for this again? I don't know, F3. Along normals. Extrude faces along normals. Fuck no. I guess we do it individually and then we can extrude along normals again. I mean, it's not great, but as a general blockout method, I think this might like be not very stupid. Is it possible to do smear frames in 3D? There's a lot of different ways to do it, but that's one of the things that's been really quite tricky to do properly for a while. For the most part, if you want to do smear frames, you just add in extra models in the shape of a smear frame. And that's kind of all you can do for the most part. Like much in the same way, this is the middle finger. Much in the same way that if you were making a 2D animation, you'd also have to draw the smear frames, right? Why do you not go along your normal properly? Or do I need to? I probably need to rotate you, don't I? And this one needs to be... Yeah, that's like not even close to along your normal. What the fuck is going on? Why? Oh, is that because you... Why do you not... I can just slide you, actually. Holy fuck, I'm an idiot. There is a way to... slide beyond bounds. Let me look this up. Blender slide along edge beyond bounds. Clamp settings. Access by holding Alt and toggling with C. So we can slide and Alt C. Doesn't seem like it. Can I just extrude? I guess I can just extrude along normals more. This is not a great way to do it, but for now, I think this will work. But it's not even extruding properly along its own normal. What the fuck is any of this? Like, why does it think that if I look at this from the top, right? Why does it think that this is the normal of this face? How does that make any sense? It's one face. Along its normal should just be in the same direction that it's already facing. So that makes no fucking sense at all. Oh, hold on, that might have been... Yeah, so why does this now film... Oh, because the... Oh... Oh... that is a matter of just scale. That's this and then 0. That's already 0. That's not it. G on the X. That is global. The global direction. But the global direction there doesn't quite match the movement that I want to move this in. And I move it along its normal. But its normal should be like a line down. Like this, kind of. So if I now do G and Z, kind of moves in the direction that I want, but also kind of not. There is a better way to do this. I'm just gonna... Fuck me. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go a couple of steps back and we're gonna extrude faces along normals and do... We're gonna extrude them all the way the fuck out, and then we're going to slide these back. Probably should have fairly long fingers, to be honest with you. So maybe even a little longer than that. And they're going to be thinner as well in a moment. And then we can slide them all back a little bit more. Because we're also going to like model nails on this stuff. Which is going to be... probably just done like... Fantastic question. How are we going to do that? Have I had that thing on local space the entire time? Was that the issue? That might have been the issue. Individual origins, pretty please. How the fuck does that even make sense? Well, we'll just do these one at a time then. That's fine with me. You know what? Maybe we'll just leave the nail stuff for when we're sculpting. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Actually, what we could do for nails is just copy this object over. Scale up light. That could be to do with it. That's a good point. So let's just remove these verts. What we'll do is I'm just going to solidify this thing. Make the thickness... That's the offset. It's my bad. How do I animate clothes on a character? By balancing the clothes to the bones of the character, man. Maybe doing some cloth simulation. Yeah, so I just make these like thin. Apply this. delete these. Not quite. Not quite. Maybe if I add some loop cuts like this. The geometry for all this already is horrendous, but we're going to remesh this all in a moment anyway. Okay, that doesn't actually work that well either. In that case, plan B. What if we just move this down? Probably a bad idea, right? Yeah, that doesn't really... I mean, it's also not terrible. No, actually, it is terrible. Yeah, I don't think that this is the way that I want to be doing this, to be honest with you. It's a pretty terrible way to do it. So I think what we'll do is, with all this, I'm just going to extrude these things out. And that's going to be the nails. And then we'll worry about all this later. So along normals... Like we can even do that one more time, through along normals, and then make them like tiny. Doesn't this thing just have fantastic looking nails? So jealous of his nails. Perfect. Not a thing I would change about him. I'm not good at this kind of stuff, can you tell? Let's mirror it along this object. Okay, I think that is... let's see... enemies, zombie version 1, a save Blender file. I think this is a pretty good starting point. As in the rough proportions of the character. Obviously, this thing looks horrendous at the moment. But we can just like kinda turn this dude off now. And let's apply some modifiers so we can join all this shit together into one mesh. What do we do now? I guess what we do now is we start... I guess this is where we start sculpting, right? At least into a, like, better shape. Or do we model the chest a little bit more? Feels like that might not be a horrible thing. Then again... I don't know. Kind of feels like it's going to be really annoying to do a lot with modeling for like the chest. I can get it in a little bit more of a like proper shape maybe, with like a bit of proportional editing like this. But it also kind of like very quickly just makes him look fat, which might not be the best. Connected only. The material and texturing process is going to be a while. So don't worry, you're not going to miss anything because we're not doing that today. Yeah, I think we're going to stick with this for the rough, like, initial block out. Which means that now what we're going to do is, I guess, just move into the sculpting workspace. And then the very first thing we do is we remesh so that everything is one big mesh. And then I guess I pull out my tablet to start sculpting with. Do I have a USB cable that I can connect up? Hold on, I don't know that I do. I see a USB cable here. is that connected to my PC? The answer is seemingly yes. Which is a good thing. It is a micro USB, right? Yes. I don't have a lot of space on my desk to deal with them. But okay. Okay, first and foremost, let's remesh this thing. I don't know if 0.1 is, that's probably too big with the skill that I made this at, right? So probably do like 100th of a meter voxel size. Let's see. Maybe that's way too finely detailed, I don't know. Seems to be taking a moment. Let's look at the wireframe. Okay, that definitely was way too detailed. Yeah, unnecessarily so. Let's go back because that is fucking insane. Let's just see what it does with remeshing at 0.1 meters. Yeah, I think that's plenty good enough, to be honest with you. It's a little blocky in places. It didn't, well, it kind of connected up the fingers a bit too much, but we can probably smooth that out. Speaking of smoothing it out, let's start by doing that. The thing is, you don't want to... hello? It's not doing anything. Not doing anything at all. Why not? What the fuck? What's going on? I am slightly confused. Apply your skill, your thing has a... I doubt it? Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. When did that happen? Doesn't solve my issue. I'm a little confused as to why I am unable to like sculpt on this at all. Let's just apply all transform. What's going on? I mean, aside from the fact that I forgot to enable symmetry, that could have been bad. Thunder sculpting, not doing anything? Anybody has any ideas here? Because this is really weird. That's actually a good point. It is kind of grey. Do I have a mask on this thing? I think it's like Alt-M for mask. Oh, okay, so I just had the entire model masked. There we go. Okay. Fantastic. Let's first look at a little bit of like anatomy. As in making these shoulders connect up to the body a bit more, and then we can like smooth out the body a bit as well. Smooth out all these connections. And then like make all this a lot more rounded. We don't want to have all these harsh edges in here. That was just like, that's an artifact of the modeling process itself. Like the blocking process, rather, I suppose. Like, instantly, this already looks a lot better, doesn't it? I just don't look forward to having to do like the arms and the muscles on the arms, because that's where, oh, wrong button. That's where I kind of fall apart, to be honest with you. But right now we're just doing rough details anyway, and we're an hour in, so we're not gonna get to all that today, most likely. And then, oh man, the fingers. Yeah, the fingers are gonna be quite a thing, aren't they? I guess, like, how are we gonna deal with the fingers? That's a great question. Guess we just add a bunch of geometry to it and then try to smooth them out or something. That's not gonna do it, is it? This is always the issue with like doing this kind of stuff with sculpting, is these very fine details, the amount of geometry that's needed to get this working. Maybe we should start with a blocking stage. That's kind of what we just did, isn't it? But before we get into like the rest of like the bigger aspects of the body, I want to have just like a plan as to how I'm going to deal with these fingers, just in case it ends up being problematic. I guess we can like use maybe scraping. Also, I definitely want to like orbit around this. Can we just like scrape our way through? I don't think that's gonna... Still, that's definitely the opposite of what I want. Creasing, that's not gonna work. Maybe just like negative clay? More fingers should keep separate objects first and then apply. Yeah, okay, but then you're gonna run into the same issue just at a later stage when there's a lot more detail in there already, right? Because the moment you join them together and you need to like remesh them into one continuous mesh, I suppose you can keep them as separate meshes until retopology. No, because you're going to be sculpting in details on like a high poly mesh anyway. So at some point, every mesh is going to need to be combined. So it's just like either way, you're just shoving the issue into the future when there's more detail on this thing as already. So I don't really think that that is going to solve my problem here with the fingers. I just need a... Why didn't you start with a base humanoid mesh if your character is humanoid? I mean, I could have. I could have. I didn't. There's no real reason. I just need a fucking consistent way to like create holes in my mesh in Blender. I'm not aware of a easy, convenient way to do that. Like aside from the... What was I just using? Like the draw sharp and then like using a negative. And smoothing it out, but that seems like a not great way to do that, right? Like that, what I need is just to be able to like mask something and say, hey, cut this out and not leave me with massive holes. That's one of those things that I think like ZBrush does have. Maybe actually one of these tools can do that. I can box trim, line projects. What I need to be able to do is just like draw and then trim that out. Because that saves all of the issues. That fixes... If I just box trim, like that's what that does, right? No, maybe not. I mean, I know that you can do it in like modeling mode with things like the like box cutter plugin. Let me just Google if somebody has a like Blender sculpt mode cut out hole. Correct way to dig a hole in sculpt mode. Yes. Oh, lasso. Oh, that makes sense. So yeah, that is... But it doesn't seem to be like doing all that. Do I need to hold down control or something? How does this work? Blender, lasso. What is it called? Lasso color? Lasso trim. Let me just watch a quick video on how to use it. Don't care about what you're doing with mortar rest. It's probably, I mean, it probably should be, but I don't. Wait, what did you just... Okay, so for this dude, it just... Like, if I just do this, why doesn't it work? Does it need a mortar rest? Unlikely, right?
So now if you click and drag and drop, boop, or maybe it's one of your very, 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 very last steps, if ever. But this is what it does. So now if you click and drag and drop, really just the little screen here, and this is a very destructive tool. So I wouldn't really.
Okay, I'm gonna just try adding a multi-res modifier. Yeah, that's not a requirement. Might be the trim mode on the right hand side menu. Where? Oh, that probably... Oh, trim mode. Don't seem like it. Why not use remesh? Because why do you use remesh? Oh, the remesh modifier, you mean? I mean, I already remeshed it to combine all the individual parts, but that leaves you with these artifacts where things, when they're close together, get like smooshed together. I'm trying to fix that by just like cutting out that space in between. And for that, I'm trying to use the like trimming tool, but it's not exactly doing what I want it to be doing. Like what I want to do is I want to just like select this. And trim it out, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything. Project? Or maybe surface. Is the issue that no? I guess we're doing some more googling. Lasso trim tool not working. See if there's any solutions, because it's probably something dumb that I am missing. Let's see. I was using multi-resolution when I was supposed to use subdivision, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong here. That doesn't seem... Dynamic topology disappears when you select that, right? Yeah. So maybe I need to turn off dynamic topology? Now it's thinking about something. It's taking a moment. But I think it's cutting out the box now. It's taking a moment. So yeah, this is one of the downsides. Yeah, there we go. So it works properly now. So this is one of the downsides of Blender. It just kind of like likes to freeze up a lot. Does this... Ooh, that's a fantastic question. Does this also mirror? I guess we're gonna find out in a moment. And once the big portions are out of the way, we can smooth out and like do sculpting on the rest. Like, that's fine. I just want to know that I have an option to cut out those like little bridging portions. Once that's all good to go, we can move back into like sculpting the rough shape of the head and stuff. Yeah, that seems like it checks out. So did it do the same thing on this side too? Oh god, that is... Oh no. That's not good. It remeshed things differently on this side. It did cut it out. No, it didn't. But things are just like straight up different on this side. That is fucked. So yeah, maybe maybe I do want to just make the fingers separate models, but then how do I properly connect those up to each other without creating the same issue at a later stage? Like if I just have those as separate objects, at some point I'm going to need to remesh everything back together. And I can't do that after having sculpted on all the detail, because then the detail disappears and I still have this issue. Or it's going to need to be an unreasonably tight mesh. So like neither of those really work. This thing in general just seems more jagged than the other side as well. I don't know why that might be, but fucking... Oh, that's definitely too strong. That's why we do this with... Yeah, this is the thing that always messes me up with these hands, right? Like, how do I fucking deal with these fingers? I guess, like, one way to deal with the fingers is just to, like, pull it all back like this into a bunch and then smooth it out and then pull it back. And then smooth it out. And create some new geometry at some point as well. Like, that's one way to do it. But now, the issue with this is that if we go over to the other side, it's going to look like a mess because it's actually not that bad. Never mind. Well, actually, this seems like it's kind of doing the trick. Not gonna lie. Yeah, it's not great. Oh, and this also has the... Okay, hold on. We're just gonna Control-C through a lot of this shit real quick. Yeah, okay, but how do you... Like, how do you join them together if not for, like, remeshing? Because at some point they're going to need to turn into one continuous mesh. The only way that I'm aware to do that is to remesh. And you don't want to remesh things after adding a bunch of detail to them. Because, again, it's going to result in the same issue, but also throw over all the detail that you added. So I'm like a little confused as to how making these fingers as separate objects and then later fusing them together works. Because I get the idea that you can just like combine them into one object, but that doesn't make them into one mesh, right? That still is a separate mesh, and they need to at some point become one continuous mesh. Unless you do all that, I guess you could then... Would that fuck up like your normal baking though? With a low remesh number. Yeah, so you just give it an insane remesh number for... I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I guess that does make sense. So yeah, let's try to do that then. We're just gonna like Control-Z through a bunch of this shit. So specifically for the fingers is what we're going to do that. I'm still going to combine everything else, but we're going to add... Okay, the hands as a whole, let's say. So if I do this and then I select all the... Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Please stop being the knife tool. I don't want to... I don't want to have the knife tool. Stop it. Thank you. All the like connected things and all these connected things, and we're going to then separate... Oh, no, not object name. Separate by selection. So these will be the hands, which I will sculpt separately, and then we'll just join them together at a remesh at a very, very high resolution. And hopefully that's a good workflow. It's at least worth trying it out. At the same time, I'm a little worried about it, but we're nothing if not experimental with this entire thing, right? So they'll probably be fine. Let's see. I think these are the hands. So let's actually properly mark and name them. Hands and body. At least low enough that the fingers don't join each other. Yeah, so I do need to do that later on though, because if I make the resolution so low that the fingers don't join together, the mesh is way too dense to actually like do any other sculpting on. From like a just the way that the brushes interact with such dense meshes perspective, and also from a Blender needs to take like 3 to 5 business days for every interaction you do at that point, which is also like not great. But like we can just do a voxel size of like 0.1 here, and like everything else that we did before, and then just leave the hands alone, and we'll worry about that later. But I do think that you might be onto something with keeping these separate and then just remeshing everything again. The only thing that I'm worried about is that I need to do that at a stage where everything is not finished yet, because the moment everything is finished, it's going to like fuck up a lot of the details when I remesh again. But then it also needs to be so small in the remeshing. Let's turn this thing off for a moment. Everything needs to be so small in the remeshing that it also is going to be difficult to add in all those details then after the fact, maybe. That definitely should have kept that on. Anyway, we'll worry about that when we get to it. For now, we just keep them as separate things, and we'll see how that ends up going. Where's the center position for this thing? Where's its origin point? Why its origin point is in its left wrist? Okay, so that's why that. Okay, set origin to 3D cursor, please. Did I undo? I think I also undid all the transform stuff. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let's try to worry about what this chest is gonna do. Because I frankly just do not know what I want to do with all this. Definitely pull this back a bit. Probably should have pretty, like, fucking jacked shoulders, right? We'll just inflate the hell out of that. Because he's going to not have legs, so might as well make this a fair bit bigger. Maybe not that much. Or at least pull them down a bit. Is there a way for the brush fall off to only... I think projected does that, right? I should probably finish my sentences so you guys know what the fuck I'm even talking about. To only, like, affect things that are connected, so you don't get, like, when I try to move the shoulder, it's also moving the cheeks. Auto-masking topology, is that it? That seems to be it, I think. Maybe. Not quite. Options. Not remesh, definitely like dynamic topology for a moment. I know this is a thing that you can do. I just don't know. Sculpt plane. Should be area plane. Maybe it's specifically for the grab brush that it's a little fucked. Let's see what happens if I... Okay. Yeah, you see, it's affecting this when I'm giving this dude, like, shoulder cancer or whatever. Wait. Oh, do I need to do this for every brush? Is that it? No, that still seems to be... What I should realistically just should be doing is I should just be masking off the head when I'm working on anything else. That is what I should be doing. So let's do that. Does this mask the things inside or outside is the question. Inside. Okay, fantastic. That's definitely not a thing that we want to select in. This is the issue with masking, though, is that these hard to get to areas are hard to get to, also to mask them. But this seems... What the fuck? What did I just... There we go. Because for the most part, this I just want to pull this chin up. Oh, that's also not great. Is this one? I don't want to be pulling the chin or anything other than the chin, rather. But I also want to have a pretty big like sphere of influence, because otherwise it's going to be all bumpy. I guess we can just smooth the chin away. I don't even want to think about what I'm going to do with the mouth and the eyes. I guess then afterwards we can go back over and like smooth out any weirdness that happened. Not gonna lie though, I think actually the top of the torso is starting to kind of look half decent. Not good, but half decent. Like we're definitely getting into a shape that I, if not like, at least will accept. So let's start making the general shape of the eye sockets. And for this, I'm actually going to pull up the pure ref, because the eye sockets are going to be mostly empty. Which is to say, I'm not going to put like traditional eyes in them. And they're going to be pretty like they're going to be pretty scully. So what I'll likely end up doing for this is getting the like clay brush and just dinging them out. As a start, anyway. Matter of fact, the entire inside is probably gonna have to be hollow, maybe. I don't want to make it too skeleton-like, actually, because I already have other skeleton-type characters. So kind of like an in-between between a skeleton and a zombie is kind of what I'm thinking right now. But that's definitely a too big brush. Like I'm gonna give him one of like these noses, right? Man, how do you set these like this is a good learning moment as well. How do you set the orbit point and scope modes? Blender set orbit point sculpt mode. Tap into edit mode, select vertices, point of interest. Yeah, that's what I've been doing, but that's fucking dumb. Enable everything except rotate around selection and rotate around the mesh under the mouse position. Where does it do that? Do I do that on the cursor? Nope. Surely that's under options, actually. Nope. Yeah, change transform pivot point in sculpt mode. That's what I need. That's actually not what I need, never mind. The average coordinate of previous strokes is used as a viewport rotation center when rotating around a selection. Is that the case? Because that is dumb as hell if that's the case. Like right now we're rotating around like the left shoulder or something. So if I just do a bunch of tiny strokes here. It's kind of looking like a dick and balls. No, that's not actually what happens like at all. There must be just like some combination of like click. Surely there is. Changing viewport orbiting axis while sculpting. Yeah. A bunch of people giving a bunch of answers that are just literally not related to the thing that's being asked. You can't tell me that there's really no good way to do this. Because I literally just did it by accident. I don't know. Anytime that I open Blender, I'm like, oh man. It's partly because I suck, but also this type of thing, I don't know. This doesn't feel like it should be hard to find, first and foremost. But it also like, oh man, Blender has about 5 million features, and about 4.5 million of them are unfinished. Not unlike Unreal Engine, actually, but the recent and 3D viewport select a vertex or series of. Do I just like? Is that it? No. So what? You're not telling me that what they really want you to do is actually go into edit mode, right? And select, set your pivot point, and then go back into sculpt mode, because that does work. Oh fuck! I've been sculpting it in the wrong direction as well. Well, I guess we're doing it this way. I can probably set the strength up a little higher for this. And maybe clay strips is what I want. Is that what I want? I think clay strips is a little bit more aggressive. Yeah. It's a little bit more like it. I don't know, man. I'm just kind of doing shit at this point. But it's also kind of working out, so I don't know. I don't hate it. Shift right button, then on. Oh, then comma on the number. Okay, so shift right mouse button, set pivot position. Okay. So if I do that here, shift right mouse button, comma. Okay. For me, it's period, actually. But thank you. No idea how you found that. Maybe I just suck at Googling. But thanks nonetheless. That was severely neat. What the fuck? What brush is this? Layer. Oh, definitely not the brush that I wanted to use. Let's dig this out a little deeper. Maybe we can actually use the inflate brush here for this. That actually seems like it might not be a bad idea. Because at this point we're not really carving anything out. We're just like creating more empty space here. Because I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to put like a light in here or something like that. Maybe a particle system. ChatGPT. You know, that's fair. That's actually a good idea. Oh, but I did at some point do dynamic topology off. That sucks. This is also going to suck when I retopologize. I am aware. Yeah, so there is also another way that you can do this with, because I keep doing it by accident, and it's like actually an issue. But seems like we're good to go now, so let's just like orbit around this. It's fine. Okay. That's the rough shape of the nose in place. Let's open up my PureRef again. Look, I really don't want to be doing the mouth, but I at some point will need to do the mouth. So I guess we're just going to start with the mouth in kind of the same way that we did with this. Which is, I don't look forward to having to do the teeth. Now I think about it. That's going to be a fucking mess. Let's just fucking... We'll work it out. Yeah, I always also use viewport switching, but that seems like it is... Like, if that is the intended way to do it, which it clearly isn't, because there is another way. Thanks again. That's one of those things where I'm like, oh man, I don't know that I love that. We're getting into a area where I'm like, oh man, I really, in some way, hope that this is one of the last like full characters that I do in Blender. I really want to move to ZBrush for this work, because just Blender is so laggy and sluggish with just for shits and giggles. Let's just see, do we have like a statistics thing in this as well? Do we need to be in object mode for that? Because I don't think we even have that unreasonable of a like poly count at the moment. I think we might need to like be in this view for that. Or maybe I'm just overlooking statistics. Like, I'm at 250,000 triangles, and Blender is starting to kind of lag a little bit when I do my sculpting, which makes the sculpting itself much harder as well. Meanwhile, when I open up ZBrush, I can have a model with like 10 million polys, and it's like, oh, only 10 million? I thought you were going to do something like difficult. So, like, that current Humble bundle that is going on, where like the flipped normals bundle with like a bunch of learning material about ZBrush. I know that flipped normals is like a pretty good resource. I've used their YouTube channel in the past for like sculpting stuff. That's like $20, and you get like fucking 5 courses and a bunch of like brushes and alpha mats and stuff like that. I'm like, I might want to get that. I might want to get that. Because I feel like what I'm doing right now, I probably could and or should be doing in ZBrush. I mean, ZBrush doesn't have as nice like automatic dynamic topology. It has like remeshing, which it does fairly well, but let's not give this thing too much of like a Joker mouth. And that's probably part of the reason that Blender is lagging so much as well, is because of the way it like dynamically generates topology as you sculpt. I can't imagine that that's particularly performant. So I guess there's upsides and downsides on both. For me though, it's a little bit of a. I don't think it matters anymore. Actually, I was gonna say it's a bit of a. Do I want to like get good enough with doing this in Blender to the point where I can make like videos on this in Blender? Because some of the more viewed videos on my channel are Blender, but I also like I'm not gonna take those videos offline, obviously, but I also don't think that I should be making too much Blender videos because I have no idea what I'm talking about beyond like very basic shit. And very basic shit is what gets the most views and what gets like people the most help to get started. Like you see, sometimes it just kind of like zooms me all the way in. So yeah, I don't know if sticking with Blender for that reason is a good reason or not. Maybe it is. But I feel like the quality of my work itself would improve a lot more going to ZBrush, and in the end, that might be the more important portion of the consideration. Why is it applying back there as well? What the fuck even is going on? Is it because it's set to... Yeah, something with that projected setting is being weird. Okay. I don't watch ZBrush videos just because... But that's the thing, I don't make Blender videos anyway. So... Like, it's one of the things I'm like, if I go ZBrush, there's definitely less people interested in that content. But do I really want to stick with Blender just for the videos that I could potentially make in it? Because I, like, in practice, don't end up doing any of that anyway. And ZBrush is quite nice. Oh, man, this dude looks horrible. Let's make the eye sockets a little bit more round again. The bottom definitely of the eye socket here is like more straight, but the tops are a lot more round. And a lot higher up as well. That's a bit more like it. And then we can like inflate these eyebrows a little bit, smooth them out. That's looking a bit more skull-like. Not quite there, but we're getting somewhere. And I do think, actually, now that I think about it, if I just like take these cheeks and make them a little bit more hollow, it's probably also a good thing to do. So we're making like a zombie type character here, right? It's not quite a skeleton. We can like paint some scars or something maybe at some point. It's also starting to look a little alien. Which is certainly like a thing. I don't know what to do with the top of his head, man. Maybe just like not too much. His mouth is also still a little fucked. Mouths are another one of those things where I never know how or what to do with them. Definitely don't want him to be smiling too much. No. I do think that I do want this to be a little bit more like carved out. The fucking lag is killing me, man. Let's just ignore the teeth for now, because that's like definitely more detailing stuff. And maybe look a little bit more into like the chest area or the arms. The arms maybe need to have a little bit more work done on them for sure. That's another thing that I always kind of fuck myself on, is whenever I start like working on the arms, like how do I give arms definition? Like I'm bad at like anatomy in that way. I'm bad in a lot of things when it comes to like character creation, to be honest. I don't want him to be too bulky though. Like the shoulders being quite bulky is fine, but it at some point also needs to go with like long fingered creepy hands. So it's mostly a matter of creating an elbow as a starting point, I think. Like, let's pull this back. I'm still in symmetry mode, right? Yes, I think I am. Yes, I am. I don't know, man. Definitely doesn't need to be like super humanoid, right? If this just ends up being somewhat more similar to the like basic demon that I already had. No, don't crash now. Okay, let's save. All right. I don't know. Maybe we just take this mesh now and we pull this into ZBrush and just like start working on it there, because this is just like, this is not workable, right? Because this, whenever I like do one stroke, takes literally like 10 seconds to register and almost crashes when I do. And once again, we're only at about 350,000 words. It's kind of fucking insane. No, I'm not replacing the character that I have. It's just the next character that I'm adding. It's just like an enemy model. I'm not. Well, I'm also going to be replacing the one that I have. To be fair, at some point. gonna make him a little bit more like generally humanoid shaped. Gonna give him like feet and hands. I think just because it allows me some more animation freedom when I get around to it. But that's quite a ways away. So I'm just gonna turn off dynamic topology and see what happens. Maybe that's a little bit better in performance. Definitely is better in performance when I do that. Just fucking look at how horrible that elbow looks. This is kind of sad. Let's make the arms a little bit like thinner, a little bit more scrawny. I also don't think that the arms necessarily need that much more going for them, to be honest with you. I like the idea of having the same like veins running over them as the like basic demon does, creating like a little bit of a structure. Character model is what makes me want to quit game dev. I mean, I'm kind of there with you, to be honest. Fucking sucks. Well, I fucking suck at it, rather. So yeah, let's just do a similar like veiny structure to what I have on the other character as well. Because that kind of worked out for me before. The sculpting can be pretty fun. It's just, I personally also like suck at creating halfway decent anatomy. And I do think it's gonna be more fun if and when I finally get around to like learning ZBrush a little bit better so that I don't rage at Blender almost crashing every time I interact with it. And then you have the whole retopology thing, which is a whole like can of worms in and of itself. I do now have retopoflow though, because it was in a Humble Bundle a while ago. It's also in the current Humble Bundle marketplace thing. Actually, I'll have to link to it below because I figured we might talk about it. So whenever I get around to retopologizing this dude, at least I'll have retopoflow, which is probably the best plugin from what I hear to help you keep your sanity. But it's still gonna suck to do. I'm gonna be real with you. I am this close to just exporting this as an FBX and seeing if I can import this into ZBrush. And just going from there. I mean, maybe with AI, at some point we're going to get there where it retopologizes it for you. Like Instant Meshes does a pretty good job where you can just like kind of draw on the directions of your edge flow and it does its best job, but then still, it's still just like a voxel remesher with slightly more intelligent like edge flow to it. So we're probably gonna get to the point where there's AI that can get you like 60% the way there or something like that. But the issue with retopology is that it's so context dependent on like what you actually want to like do with it and how you want to go ahead and use the model, where you need more to like geometry, where you don't need that geometry, how do you connect up those bits, where can you be a little bit more sloppy with connecting up geometry to each other, because it's not going to like be deforming much anyway, so you can get away with some wacky shit. Like there's so much intention and like context clues to it that even if the process is made significantly simpler by AI, you're still going to need to do a lot to like communicate to that AI what it needs to do. And that's kind of the we're back. And that's kind of the tricky thing with a lot of these AI tools, right? Is that they like the more work they take away from you, the less like with the amount of work that you don't have to do, you also now have less control. And the moment you start reintroducing more control back into these AI tools, the more they don't actually do anything for you anymore, right? There's a very small sweet spot in the middle there. And the moment you go outside of that sweet spot, you're kind of like the whole AI thing doesn't really like help anymore. Yeah, what does the wireframe? I mean, there's plenty of stuff here to still work with, I would argue, but clearly Blender doesn't agree. The main culprit with AI CEOs who aren't very smart. I think the issue is that people just massively overestimate what AI can actually do on like a big scale. Okay, you know what we're gonna do? I'm actually gonna try the ZBrush thing because I am done with this. Let's try to like export as an FBX, or actually maybe for ZBrush it's better to export as an OBJ. It probably doesn't actually matter. But we're gonna do OBJ. I'm just gonna like, I'm still here. Don't worry. I need to have like a full screen or whatever, so that you guys can see that the stream isn't crashing. I just need to open up ZBrush real quick and like import that thing and figure out what that all works, how it all works and whatever. Do I have ZBrush installed? Yes, I do. I don't like AI replacing people. I like it when AI helps it. But that's the thing. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive, because if your work is made easier by AI, that still means that you can get more stuff done in the same amount of time, which means that you like your boss needs to hire like a few less people. So like those things directly work into each other. Okay, so fucking imagine a day where you can fully enroll yourself driving trucks and taxis, and there's a lot of jobs going missing. Kind of sad. I mean, for like an individual, all this AI stuff is really good. Like I personally I'm quite happy with it all because it makes a lot of stuff accessible to like individual people and individual artists. So like I'm quite happy with it, but like on a grander scale, it's definitely an issue. How do I import shit? Oh yeah, import. I think that's it. So characters, enemies, zombie, OBJ. We're gonna be doing this together. It's been even longer since I've used ZBrush. So this is gonna be I don't know what this is gonna be. This is gonna be Fox. First and foremost, fuck off with your lightbox. Then I think we can just do this kinda, right? And then we can go into edit mode. And then there's a shortcut to clear your viewport of all those other things. ZBrush clear viewports. Why is my caps lock on? Control 0. That's definitely not what I'm looking for. I really should look up some more like tutorials before I go into ZBrush live on stream. ZBrush remove default sphere. I'm just gonna like Google like a beginner because that's what I am. With this ZBrush Googling, I'm running into an opposite issue that I have when I troubleshoot something in Unreal. When I troubleshoot something in Unreal, I get onto the Epic Games forums and people are like, have you tried the like single most obvious thing in the universe? I'm like, yes, obviously. Because I know Unreal pretty well at this point. Now that I have ZBrush here, I'm trying to Google something and people are giving like way too advanced answers for something that's like this obvious and this simple. I made a whole like the skull thing that I have in my game, like that object. I made that entirely in ZBrush. Like I did a thing, well that's like 4 months ago. Anyway, as a consumer, like we don't get personally affected by it. Matter of fact, the opposite. But it's sad because my dad works as a taxi driver, and now they've been testing out self-driving taxis. Yeah, that cannot possibly be like legal yet, right? I fucking hope not. Because full self-driving is, I mean, if you're to believe Elon Musk, it's only a year away and it's been for about 10 years. So I don't think we're getting there anytime soon. So it's kind of worrying if a taxi driver is getting like getting into problems because of self-driving, because I don't think like self-driving should be a thing yet. Like technologically speaking, and the law behind it definitely should not be ahead of the technology because that seems like asking for trouble. ZBrush, refresh, viewport. Maybe that's what we're looking. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna ask ChatGPT. That seems like a way better way to do this. In ZBrush, after going into edit mode, how do I get rid of the sphere that's still on my screen? Switch to edit mode, yes. Clear canvas, yes. Clear canvas, hold on. Is there a shortcut for clear canvas? Control N. That's all that I needed to know. It's not that difficult, is it? There we fucking go. Okay. I believe this is what how do we orbit with this button? We move with holding Alt. We zoom in with this. Okay, fantastic. It's also got a better like matcap for seeing details. We still use shift to smooth, and then I think B is for brushes. So we can, what is I think clay brush is probably, it's just moving is done with Alt instead of with shift, which is gonna fuck me up. I'm guessing this still works this way. That is masks. Yeah, so it's probably shift now. Oh, it's probably Alt, right? Yes, it's Alt. Okay. We're gonna get there. Don't you fucking worry. We're gonna get there. You see how much more responsive this is than Blender was a moment ago? It's kind of stupid. Oh, but before we do literally any of that, I also need to turn on symmetry. GPT, how do I turn on symmetry? Oh, you just press X, that's right. Just press X and you're symmetrical in the X direction. That is actually a lot more straightforward. To the point where I'm like, why doesn't Blender do that? That actually makes all of the sense. I don't think the clay brush is what I want. There's so many brushes. That's the downside of a lot of brushes, is I have no idea which one makes the most sense for what I'm doing right now. I do like the planar and like trim adaptive and trim dynamic brushes in ZBrush though. Those are really cool. Is it clay buildup? What I probably actually want to do is I want to set my brush to being round first and foremost. Yes, I think this is the one that I want. There we go. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Now we can go over them with some finer detail. I know that this is not realistic muscle anatomy, by the way, but it's kind of like going in the style of a previous one of my characters. And it's a fantastic way to add geometry detail. Oh, now it also has the hands in there, doesn't it? So yeah, now we get into, if I now remesh, it's going to remesh the hands as well. And we don't want that. Because it did do them as one. We'll worry about that later. For now, I just want to get a move on. But yeah, if I now like remesh everything, which I think I can just do by going in here somewhere. I don't even know where. Geometry? Dynamesh. Probably want to up the resolution quite a bit. That's probably good enough, but I don't know how well this is going to deal with me now trying to sculpt on it again. I guess we'll see. Decently well, actually. And now it's all connected as well. Oh, the only thing is like smoothing out the hands here and that kind of stuff. Well, it's actually working out fairly smoothly as well. Pun intended, since I'm smoothing things out. The only thing is it does now connect things up again a little bit, but we can probably take care of that at some point. I don't even think, are these beats connected up? Like if I just smooth the hell out of it? Yeah, they are connected up. Oh, that sucks. Well, we can work on that later. I don't even know what the hell's going on here. But I do think that this is the way that we're going to make this character's arms. Because, as I said, this is a pretty easy way for me to like add in detailing to this stuff without actually having to make things that are like anatomically correct, but still have it look kind of good. Look, I'm very much in a process of learning when it comes to character creation. And as I said, I'm probably going to get those courses from Flip Normals that are on Humble Bundle right now, because I do think that those are going to really help me, specifically with ZBrush, especially now that I'm like halfway through this very stream. I'm like, okay, Blender can go die in a hole with ZBrushing this, but look, I mean, that's pretty neat for an arm, right? Like, that's pretty decent. I don't hate it. Yeah, I think this is a pretty acceptable way to deal with this stuff, to be honest with you. It's just the orbiting point sometimes, those weird things. The biggest judge is the artist. I mean, you always hate your own work more than other people do. Well, unless you're like very arrogant about it, in which case you probably love your work more than other people do. But like that always, like, there is people that happens to, I suppose. But for the most part, like, if you're making some kind of art, you're probably the most critical person of it yourself. That is true. Usually, anyway. I feel like we could do with like a vein running like this. I keep using the shift key, I'm sorry. It's probably very disorientating for you guys. It is for me. Oh, and actually, cool idea. These can connect up to like the muscle stuff on his chest, so that it like connects up to like the like veiny, like almost stringy musculature on his chest. Kind of like that idea, to be honest with you. And his back as well, at that rate. Right, we can do just as an ID. But the fun thing about this is that these are like implied to be like muscle, like veins and muscle stuff. And that can then connect up to this bit, which is like a bit of spine that is like protruding out. I quite like that idea. It's just fucking impossible for me to apparently draw a straight line. Let's not use that last one. And once the first line is in place, like making it more pronounced and thicker is not that difficult. Okay, those last strokes can go away. Can I please have my orientation back? Because this is really, well, I guess that's where this shift thing comes in, right? Oh, that's actually quite nice, because now I can just, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, that actually does work out fairly well. So we can connect this up like this. And even like make it go up his neck maybe. I'm just kind of going along with it, pulling things out of my ass. Being 100% honest with you. Smooth this out a little bit. Like, this feels like muscle definition, and that's kind of the thing, right? It doesn't need to be, for what I'm making anyway, it doesn't need to be anatomically correct. It just needs to like have some definition to it. And you very quickly find yourself in a place where it's kind of good enough. And it just kind of like comes together just by working on it, to be honest with you. But this is how I made that first demon as well. And if I'm being honest, which that's like the fifth time in a minute that I'm using that phrase, so I probably should stop saying things about honesty. But really, I think this is going to be a motif throughout a lot of my characters, because it is just kind of the workflow that I'm getting into. And I can explain it away as a stylistic choice. And that makes it sound like it's intentional, instead of just compensation for my lack of skill. And that is what it truly means to make art, is to come up with excuses for stuff you did, or stuff you didn't do, more specifically. It's probably actually getting a little overly detailed already for what I'm doing right now, because I still need to do a lot of stuff with the head. So let's not worry about the details on the arms too much. Now that I've done it anyway for those parts, might as well finish the rest of the arm, right? I'm not going to do the hands though. Like, the hands is definitely a we'll do that in the future type of thing, because I am scared about that. Really, really scared. Will be a sad thing if everyone made the same art, and that is where AI art comes in. I don't hate AI art, I should point out. Like, the thumbnail of the very stream that you're watching is AI generated, because I needed a thumbnail of something along the character that I was going to make before the character exists. So how do you make a thumbnail? You ask ChatGPT to make you an image, and then you use that for the thumbnail. And frankly, it's probably one of the best looking thumbnails that's been on the channel in a while. Definitely, like, got quite a few people in to watch. Might be coincidence that this is a fairly like well watched stream, but at some point there were like 15 people watching. So I mean, that kind of worked. Wasn't the intention, but I guess it is an interesting looking character. But that's one of those things, like, it doesn't really like take away anything, right? Otherwise, the thumbnail I would have made would have just been like an empty Blender project, which nobody wants to see as a thumbnail. So in this case, an AI generated image just added something to the world, and not taken away like from anybody's experience or whatever. This would be roughly like the breastbone, I think. Let's see, can we... Yes. Like, roughly this would be breastbone. So what I probably want to do is something... something like that, right? was watching the gameplay ability system video, the long cut. That is a long one. Needed a brain break, so the stream was recommended. That's what I love about live streams, is that they just like get recommended so much. So I'm glad that I can give you a bit of a brain break from frying your brain with the gameplay ability system, because it definitely does do that. Like gas, really. It's quite a lot to get into. There we go. Okay, and then now we just like kind of connect these up like this. Right. And then these ones start connecting up to the back, I think. I'll probably need a smaller brush size to really like get this all done, and then we'll smooth that out. I keep forgetting to not use the shift key. It's really quite annoying. You can also just do it here, which is more intuitive. I guess we also connect this up as a sort of like semi-collarbone. This can slowly... Actually, just like ending where it does is probably not that bad. Fucking. It's just all I'm going to say about that is fucking. Oh yeah, 45-degree angle. That's definitely what I want. Okay, so then from there, what I'm thinking is this just has then like downward angles, right? Or angles, whatever. Downward like stripes. So kind of like this. Try to not make it look like a very veiny penis. I make no promises. Probably shouldn't make these symmetrical. I realize now. I say, as I keep doing them symmetrically. Oh well. Maybe it's cool if they're symmetrical. I don't know. Maybe it's distracting. Maybe it is just really bad. Specifically here at the front, it probably actually looks shit. That they're, well, it's not that bad. At this point, I just want to get to a point where using this thing as a thumbnail for the next stream will look good. And I think we're slowly getting there. Zombie. I'm just saving the project real quick, just in case. Because we can carve this out to make like more depth and that kind of stuff, but that's, I think, like future talk. We don't need to be doing that right now. I very much wonder how this exists here on the right side, but not on the left side. That's kind of weird, but sure. Can we like? Thank you. Has anybody in chat? I know there's not a lot of like active people chatting. There's a good few people watching, but like most people are just lurking, which is fine. Has anybody like played that new Dragon Ball game yet? Because it looks fucking lit. but it's also like $70, so I'm not gonna buy it. Not yet, anyway. At some point in the future, I will, I'm sure. But that's a lot of money for a video game. And I just bought Final Fantasy 16 as well, because I'm on a Final Fantasy kick. I just finished 15, which sucked. This probably needs more geometry to actually properly do its thing. But Sparking Zero was definitely one of the options that I had in mind for the next game to play. But then I realized, I don't know. The single player experience of the Budokai games was never that good. And I really don't care for like playing that specific game online. Like most games I don't care for playing online. But this is one of those games that man, it's... If they try to make it balanced, they take out like a lot of the fun of those games. And if it's not balanced, I'm definitely not going to want to play online, because then only like 3 characters are actually worth playing as. Which again, takes away the fun of the Budokai games, where you can play as any character and have it be like reasonably believable in terms of like how it would feel if those characters were to fight. I think they kind of made like a point system for the characters, right? So what they ended up doing is the characters have like a score. You can take like 20 points or 15 points into a match. So if you take like fucking Ultra Instinct Goku, the rest of your team is going to be like Yamcha. I think that's the way they ended up going with that. Which I guess that's a pretty good like middle ground. Yeah, Kakarot also had like a lot of DLC. That being said, though, Kakarot's DLCs were all pretty good, I believe. Like there was one. Was there one for like the Tournament of Power, and then one for original Dragon Ball, which actually was like fairly interesting because like you couldn't fly, and there was specific like actually like different gameplay stuff happening as well. And one for like episode of Bardock or something. Which, I mean, sure, if they want to make that DLC. They probably could have bundled the Bardock and the... I think it's Bardock anyway. They probably could have bundled like Bardock and original Dragon Ball together as one DLC. Yeah, the visuals of Sparking Zero look... Oh my god, symmetry. The visuals of Sparking Zero look absolutely fantastic. Like, just for that, I actually, like, just want to get the game to try to, like, analyze what they actually are doing with a lot of the visuals. But I can just do that on YouTube videos as well, so I don't ever need to get the game for that. But there's probably gonna be, if not DLC, there's definitely gonna be, like, character expansion packs. That's kind of the thing, like, DBZ Kakarot was just a pretty normal RPG. So there you could say, oh, we have, like, a new story as a DLC, but I don't think Budokai really works that way. Like, the story mode in Budokai Tenkaichi has always been kind of secondary, just to unlock characters to beat up your friends with. So they surely can't do DLC as story missions. The only DLC that they can really do, I think, would be new characters. And there's still a lot of characters that aren't in there. Like, they say there's like 150 characters, but like 20 of those are Goku. And another 20 of those are Vegeta. So I think somebody did the math, and in the end, there's like actually unique characters. There's 81, which is the same as Budokai Tenkaichi 3. So that's still a good amount. But with some DLC, they can probably bump that up to like 100, because there's like a lot of GT characters still aren't in there. and that kind of stuff. I'm sure that there's going to be a bunch of like Dragon Ball Daima characters that are going to get added. We already have Daima Goku in there. But like when Dragon Ball Daima actually starts like airing, there's definitely going to be like expansions for those characters. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing entirely depends on the quality of that show. The show itself looks fucking amazing from the trailers. Aside from like the whole everybody turning into children thing. But that's just because everybody's been traumatized by Dragon Ball GT. It's been long enough that most people watching Daima probably weren't even born when GT was airing. It's fine. Let's make these veins a little bit thicker. Thick veins is what we want, right? Like Dragon Ball GT aired in like 1997, I want to say, something like that, right? That's when it stopped airing. That was like the finale. Like the people that weren't even born when that show was airing, like almost includes me. I was born in 1996. I definitely wasn't watching Dragon Ball GT as it was airing. Doesn't mean that it's not a bad show, though. Because holy hell, it's a bad show. It's got some good stuff in it, though. Sometimes, a little bit. Anyway, I don't really know how to move forward, but I also think that we're like approaching a point where we maybe want to wrap up for today, because I think we are at a point where this is like thumbnail worthy for the next stream, which is like a thing that I need to think about sometimes. And I think anything else that we're going to do with like these veins is going to require a finer mesh for the most part. We can dig in a little bit more, specifically like in these larger areas as well. Like that's a thing that we can already do. Also, hello, John. Like the in between those like little vein rib things at the front definitely is going to need finer geometry than we have right now, because like the finest line that we can trace is kind of like that. And that is quite thin. So I think we are going to do some stuff on the head probably first, and then maybe finally start taking a look at the hands next time on Dragon Ball GT. I mean, we were just talking about Dragon Ball. Kind of felt like I can't say next time without doing the voice. Didn't that guy die like last week or something? I remember seeing something about that on TikTok. Real sad. That very much didn't sound genuine, did it? I do mean that it is real sad. Just getting kind of tired. I feel like this is going to be a cool character. I already don't look forward to retopologizing him, but maybe it's actually not going to be that bad, because it's a lot of just like cylinder shape work, right? And those are really easy to like retopo. So maybe it won't be that bad. The head is going to be a nightmare. I was kind of thinking that the character should be a little bit more droopy than it is right now. But I don't hate the direction that we're going with it. Yeah, I'm not going to carve out all this on stream today. Matter of fact, all that carving out of that kind of like general area I might just like do off stream, because I don't know that that's the most interesting thing to watch. Oh fuck, I forgot to start a local recording for today's stream. I was going to maybe like record all this locally to like do a supercut at some point of the entire process as a video. Just like I kind of did with the level design video from earlier this week, which is actually doing quite well. But I had to re-download all those VODs from YouTube, and the quality is not great because they are all at like streaming bit rates and not recording bit rates and resolutions. So I'm gonna try to remember that. Now that I have, like, I bought a bunch of extra storage so that I can like keep archives of streams for like video editing. Like I bought a 4 terabyte SSD and like a 12 terabyte hard drive for like this express purpose, as well as work. Well, this is also work, right? So that I could have higher quality recordings of the streams. I'm not gonna keep those around forever. Like a year after a stream is done, I'm not gonna need an archive of it anymore. But for like projects where I wanna work on a video to do with streams, those streams like last about 3 months, maybe, like for the level design. I think that was about 3 months in total. Would have been nice to keep the recordings of that until the video was done. So I'm gonna try to like do that a bit more, but we'll see whether or not I actually end up doing that. So the thing is, I don't know if I'm gonna make a video about it until the end of a project like this. There probably is a better way to do this, by the way, with like a selection tool and then like just insetting everything or something. But I also think that this kind of gives you a little bit more texture to the entire thing. And that's definitely not something I'm just saying to make myself feel better about the way that I'm doing this. This is the kind of thing where I'm like, yeah, I definitely just need to watch those flip normal courses to get better at doing this kind of thing. I also need a better pop filter because I keep popping and peaking my microphone. Sorry about that. Yeah. I mean, look at the back of this kind of guy. That's also what the front is going to look like. I do think that there is something to be said about the like more uneven texture that I get with this method of carving out those little areas. So yeah, I think we're gonna leave it there for now. I'm gonna overwrite this thing, and then why is that up there? Oh, this weird circles up there. Maybe I just accidentally did some stuff. It's been a good one. Thank you everybody for hanging out. My internet seems to have stabilized itself out after the first 10 minutes here, so my internet's not broken for the time being anyway. So hopefully we'll be back on I was gonna say Thursday. It is Thursday. On Tuesday, where I will be able to progress with this dude, and I have no idea still what I'm gonna do for the teeth. There might be a little bit of going back and forth between Blender and ZBrush. Because in Blender, what I could do is I could like make an array of like teeth and then export that as a separate thing into ZBrush and then like combine them or whatever. I don't know what I'm going to do with all this. Again, part of this entire thing is also I still don't have a solid workflow for character creation, and I'm trying to figure one out because there's going to need to be specifically characters. There's going to be a fair few characters in the game, of course, because I need a variety of enemies. And then I also probably want to get more familiar with ZBrush for sculpting like individual assets as well, like just props, that kind of stuff. I'll probably do the rough modeling for them in Blender and then put them into ZBrush for the like detailed sculpting. Then I'm back into Blender to decimate them, and then into Substance Painter for like texturing or something like that. That's probably like the workflow I'm thinking about for props right now. But for characters, which are a bit more complicated, I still need to like figure out what I'm gonna do in terms of like workflow, because I genuinely just have no idea. But so far, what we have here seems pretty decent to me. So we'll be back with the next one later. And until then, there's going to be some interesting videos about metadata coming up over the next couple of days. So for the inventory system. So that's going to be fun. Enjoy that.